meeting to order.
Sorry, Patricia, Abe's not quite here yet.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Patricia,
Yes.
if you don't just mind, if you, if you don't mind, can you just let everyone know that you're participating via teleconference when we do roll call, please?
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Do it before or after?
During is fine.
During. Okay.
This is the October 13th meeting of the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission meeting. And I think next order of business, call to order. Patricia Truth will be participating via teleconference from New Orleans. So I'll be chairing the meeting. Patricia, are you away? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I am. Yes.
Great.
Excuse me,
Go ahead.
I think procedurally, chair would have to relinquish, like would have to pass the
Yeah.
chairship or whatever we want to call it to you. So Patricia, go ahead. If you cannot act as a chair today, I think you can pass the role to.
To Commissioner Johnson. Yes. So I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:33. Amanda, will you please take roll call?
Yes, Chair Patricia Trouth
Here.
and, as mentioned, via teleconference, Vice Chair Glenn Johnson,
Present.
Chris Duncan,
Here.
James Gross is absent, Ron Medoc is also absent, Paul Templin,
Here.
and David Thiele.
Here.
So as it was said just recently, I'm participating remotely. So I'm going to pass on the chairmanship of this meeting to Commissioner Johnson, and I will continue to participate remotely.
Okay. Next order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Stand and as you're able. And, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
One in liberty.
Okay, next item is approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve minutes or a motion to change them?
Approve? Yep, second.
Second. Do we need to vote on that?
I'll go ahead and do a verbal vote. since we have one on teleconference.
What?
I'll do a verbal vote, if
Okay.
you don't mind.
Yes.
Chair Patricia Trouth,
Approved.
Vice Chair Glenn Johnson,
Approve.
Chris Duncan,
Approve.
Paul Templin,
Approve.
and David Thiele.
Approve.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is oral communications. Amanda, do we have any?
Yes, we do. Our first speaker is, we have three speakers. Our first is Lisa, and second is Mike Dobransky.
Okay, you get 3 minutes, no time donations. Go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners and Sergeant and staff. The first issue that I wanted to discuss was the new element that's been put on Saxony. I don't know, if you've all been on it, but where the curb goes out and then joins again. There was an accident where a car and an electric bike collided. The boy No, neither one was injured, but the boy was on the side of the road crying. His parents came. They did not want to report it. And the person in the car thought that that's the right thing to do. He went to the sheriff's station and went to report it, and they suggested that he report it as an incident rather than an accident. If it's an accident, I guess it goes on your record or points or whatever. So I want to know if incidents and accidents are included together when we're reporting on how many accidents occur on each road. So that, I don't know if, I mean, I know you can't respond, but that was my concern because people say, oh, on this roundabout, there were only that many accidents. And everyone doesn't report the incidents, but there are people who do. So that should be included, I think, altogether. Second of all, the day there was the brush fire, it was off of Leucadia between Quail Gardens Drive and Garden View. And it was just a brush fire. There was no wind. I guess it didn't move anywhere. But everybody was redirected, I guess, off the freeway up Leucadia Boulevard. They couldn't go straight, so they were on Quail Gardens Drive. It was backed up from Encinitas Boulevard to almost Leucadia. Someone coming off of Paseo de las Flores, where the people park who are going to Fox Point, couldn't even make a left. She had to make a right and then go that way, even though she was going south. I live across from the Botanical Gardens. I saw that, and I had a physical therapy appointment up by Chin's, and I walked out of my gate, and the cars that I saw there, I beat them down to Encinitas Boulevard just walking, because that was the only way I was going to get down there. And while I was there, another patient called and said, I'm trying to make my appointment, but I'm sitting here. So that brings back the how the traffic is going to be managed if there needs to be an evacuation, because Encinitas Ranch comes down onto Quail Gardens, and so does everything else. So I don't know how that's going to be addressed. Thank you.
Hold on just a second. Can we ask the sheriff's representative the difference between an incident and an accident?
Just like she said, an accident, we've actually taken a report. An incident number means it may have been called in to dispatch, but a report wasn't necessarily written, but the incident was documented. So when we report every month accidents, that's when something's actually been taken as a report. So she's correct, not all incidents, we're not putting that up there as the number, just reports that we're writing. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Next, we have Mike Dobransky, followed by Molly Hentlian.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for all that you do. First time here, but I've watched you guys online many times, so thank you. I'm here to support red light cameras and offer a perspective just from my own. I've been in Encinitas for 15 years, and I think everybody can agree traffic has gone up. The data shows that the population of Encinitas has only grown about 2,000 people in 25 years. However, our neighboring cities, San Marcos and Carlsbad, have both had their populations increase a lot. In fact, Carlsbad has increased 34,000 people, and San Marcos has increased 38,000 people in 25 years. And so it seems to me that what we're seeing on our streets, the increase in traffic, is not just residents, but people commuting through from our neighboring cities, which is fine. I commute through San Marcos as well. But the danger on the street, as you guys know, has been a topic as of late. And someone commuting through doesn't have the same intent as a resident. I think that's something to know. And we know that the data shows that speed is the #1 killer when it comes to accidents. And intersections are the #1 place where accidents happen. And the worst place that you can be is in an intersection when somebody's speeding and running a red light. And that's what happened to Emery, as you guys know, and it was not a resident passing through. I'm here to support the red lights as a short-term solution, as a long-term solution. If you guys can think of a better solution, this one seems to address the issue that we have, the problems that we're facing on the streets, okay? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'd like to see the Commission focus on safety awareness. We clearly have an issue with driver behavior throughout the city, and I know it's not just Encinitas. Carlsbad has it, Oceanside has it, San Diego has it. But there's definitely a driver behavior issue that I feel if we were to address it like we do our fire safety awareness and have a campaign where the Commission gets behind some recommendations and we host, just like we do EcoFest and Cyclovilia, that we host some safety awareness programs, because I'm a licensed driver from, I don't want to say for how long, but a long time. But I feel what I've been observing and have almost been subject to being hit crossing the street, even though I'm paying attention and using the crosswalk. I think that there's reckless driving happening, and we have to keep talking about the positive behaviors we need to be taking. I feel the VMS signage is a start. I think that the messaging needs to be a little bit more updated and revised weekly, because otherwise it becomes just like tone deaf. The other issue is I'd like to see the Commission get behind enforcing more bike safety about children and adults wearing helmets, especially on e-bikes. So again, it goes back to a safety awareness campaign, and it would really be great to start with the Commission coming up with a plan or recommendations on how the city could host a proper campaign. Thank you.
That concludes public speakers.
Next item, special presentations, information proclamations, and announcements. Nick Buck, Mobility Manager.
Thank you, Chair. Our mobility manager had a unplanned need to take the afternoon off, a medical situation in the family. So I did receive his presentation, so I'm going to go over it. I'll try to answer questions if there are any as much as I can. If there is a question that I don't have the answer to, I'll be happy to discuss it with our mobility manager and update the commissioners after the meeting. So this past month, the presentation I received from the commissioner, we have a free bike valet the previous several years at the Encinitas Oktoberfest event that's becoming more and more popular. September 28th, we had the event. Our mobility manager was there the whole day for about, I think, 10 hours. I believe he had also volunteers there who provided free bike valet, and the focus was bike safety and environmental efforts of the city. They would provide information to public. And the station, they parked about 200 bikes during the day, convenience to our residents. Another continuous activity our mobility manager is involved is ongoing collaboration and side visits with our school district team and the infrastructure team members of the school districts in Encinitas, continuously trying to identify enhancements and safety opportunities. After preliminary discussions and evaluations, our mobility manager passes these ideas and suggestions and requests to the city's CIP team, the Capital Improvement Program team, and the traffic team. And also, often these get discussed at our school district liaison committee. And 2 of our council members and representatives of our school districts participate at those meetings. We monitor and evaluate these safety measures. We also discuss continuously regarding how our crossing guard program operates, and if they have needs for changes, improvements, adding the number of crossing guards locations. They always discuss this with our mobility manager. And we also participate in some school events and education regarding active transportation and safety. Following on that, regarding our public bike safety education program, we do offer the community cycling classes, 3-hour classes are 3rd and 4th Saturdays at the Encinitas Community Center. Till now, about 1,000 participants have completed the class. The demand is still very high, and we're seeing an increase in the number of parents and adults participating in the program. It's not just kids anymore. Another update is our microtransit study that's underway, recently started. It's a grant-funded study regarding microtransit driven by the city's climate action plan. The city hired National Renewable Energy Laboratory, NRAL, and they've started the transit analysis. They just started about a month and a half ago. At some point, maybe in November or after, we will have a presentation for the commission once they get to a point where they have enough information to present their findings to the commission. They will come here maybe in November, maybe after. The study does include the gap analysis and the needs assessment for our various users in the city, and will provide us recommendations on options, program type options, opportunities, and potential solutions, anticipated costs. There's also scoping there for potential grant writing for us. With that, concludes my presentation. I said I'll do my best to answer questions, if any, but if I don't know the answer, I'll be happy to get you the answer. Thank you, Chair.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Hearing none. Next item is the San Diego County Sheriff's Office report by Sergeant Christy Trampas, and then the Sheriff's report for September.
Good evening. My name is Christy Trampas. I am the sergeant for the traffic division here in Encinitas at the Sheriff's Station. So last month, you guys gave me a couple requests, and I tried to include those with this month's report. So first slide, as always, shows the location of the collisions that we had last month, kind of spread out throughout the city. There were 23 collisions that were reported. So last month, you guys asked, I know the next few slides are a count of like all the citations that were written, and it's kind of hard to understand. So we included it just for you to see, but if you scroll down, I kind of made it a little bit easier. We took out, right there, we basically pulled out the 4 violations that we're hearing are the most concerns in the city, which are speeding, cell phone, red light, and stop sign violations. So we broke it down from that huge long list so that you can see that speeding, there were 90 citations issued with a speeding violation on the citation. Doesn't mean they didn't get cited for something else, but there was a speed-related charge on that citation, if that makes sense. Same with cell phone. There were 60 citations, cell phone related. 30 stop sign, 18 red light. 10 DUI arrests for last month in September. And then you also had asked if we could compare last year's stats with this year, which is the next slide. So we are comparing July, August, September. So you can see where the blue is 2024, the orange is 2025. So DUI arrests for this year are a little bit up compared to last year. And then collisions, last year, July, we were a lot, yeah, there you go. July, it's kind of all over the place. We were a lot lower this year in August for collisions compared to last year. September, we're about the same. July, we were a little bit higher this year. So does that kind of answer your question of what you guys were looking for to kind of understand the stats a little bit better? Okay. So that's what we have for this month. I can continue to report it this way if that makes it a little bit easier for you guys to understand the stats. And I think that's all we have for reporting for this month.
Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Yeah, just to confirm, thank you. No, that's exactly, I mean, it just puts it in context. And if we can just kind of continue to age it as we go, that's great. Thank you. Very helpful. Unfortunately, sometimes it brings more questions, like, okay, so now why? But, I won't pepper you with those right now, but, I guess my first one being, and maybe it's just observational or your opinion, but like dramatic difference, like the collisions in August. My question is, what do you think?
I would have to look up what the collisions were last year versus this year. Summertime is interesting in this city. I've learned it's a lot busier. Why last year was a lot higher than this year, I'd have to look it up to see what kind of crashes we had. And I can get that answer for you next month. If there's a huge discrepancy, I'll try to figure out why. But we did have, at the top of this, it showed we had 644 citations total issued in the month of September. We did have our traffic blitz, that we call it, our extra enforcement day, where we had enforcement from all different agencies. I don't know if you guys saw it. We had Carlsbad PD, San Diego PD, Chula Vista PD. We had a ton of motors, about 40 motors in the city helping do traffic enforcement on September 10th. So they saturated the city and did nothing but traffic enforcement for the entire day. So that was a very productive day. We wrote over 300 tickets just in that one day. So.
But that was September. This is October. Just, yeah. Okay.
So these stats are for September.
Yeah. Oh, these stats are September. Okay. Yeah, of course, we're in October. Okay.
Okay, is that it? Or are there other questions?
Yeah, of course. Wow. So DUI arrests, I was just curious. So when do those typically happen? I'm just guessing they probably happen at night. Is that true, or just any time of the day?
As the reports are coming through, I'm noticing they could be any time of the day.
Okay. Okay, so you had more officers out there trying to enforce this year, but still the same number of DUI arrests. I was just trying to wrap my head around that.
A lot of them are collisions. that
Okay.
we're arresting.
Okay, so that's usually when you catch folks. But you do sobriety checkpoints still here sometimes?
We're planning on the next one. We've been planning that, so we'll have that coming up. Hopefully in the next couple months, we'll do another one here.
Okay, great. And then, so you said there were like 644 citations, and then you sort of picked out the four types that you thought we were most concerned about. And I was just adding that up in my head. It's around 200. What else were people cited for?
So we listed that whole long list. I know
Right,
it's
it's
kind of
so
hard to
long.
understand. A lot of them were like fix-it tickets, expired registration, no front plate, no insurance. A lot of them were
Okay.
parking citations. That's also included in that number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a variety of sign violation. It could be a lot of different things people got cited for.
So just sort of ignoring what obviously collisions we're most concerned about, et cetera. But what were the top four things that were part of those citations? What were the top four reasons officers cited people? Do you have any idea? Or
Well, if you look at the list, the top one is expired registration.
Oh,
but
okay.
speeding tickets are the next. We had 90 speeding tickets.
okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was
It's
sorted
okay.
by count.
I know that's kind of hard to read. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of all over the place, but speeding tickets were the second highest.
Okay, great. That's good to know. And yeah, I just want to reinforce the idea that actually the way you have it graphed there, that's wonderful. Thanks for doing that. And then yeah, if next month we could see, like, for the last 4 months, the comparison, and just sort of build it up over time. Obviously, at some point, well, I don't know, maybe we could do it for the whole year, but it's nice to sort of see the trend over time, and that's very helpful.
Sure,
So
no
thank
problem.
you.
Oh, is that it? Do you have?
I do. Thank you, Vice Chair. Sergeant Trampus, thank you for the report. It's very helpful to see the graphs, and I'm sure we can accumulate that over time. It's very helpful for a comparison. My question is, my first question is on the blitz that you did on September 10th. Wow, that's really effective. Obviously, you have a lot more motors out there, but is there any way to extrapolate that, or is there any way to do that more often? And do you think it's because people are violating in various ways pretty consistently, and that the motors are out there to catch them, and you just, or is it something else? Like, obviously it's effective, and if you just have more officers out there, they're going to catch people.
So we're listening to the citizens, and there's been a lot of complaints. So I did everything I could to get more resources here to the city, and if that meant getting outside resources, it seemed to work that day. If you looked on the Waze app, it was everyone saying there's cops everywhere, slow down. So we're going to do these blitzes once a month. I can't always have outside agencies coming in. They're expected to work their own cities as well. And if they help us, we got to help them too. So I'm going to get them as often as I can. There's the past 3 months, I've had all of just the sheriff's motors from all the different cities in the county come help in this city. There's been like 14 of them. So I'm really reaching out to get outside help because of the concern that the citizens have been showing for traffic enforcement. So I am going to continue to do everything I can to have help come in and do extra enforcement, and that's our plan, at least once a month.
Oh, that's excellent. Everybody appreciates that. I think consistency really reinforces the fact that when you're coming into the city, you need to slow down and pay attention, and just calmly pass through the city. My next question is, do you target certain intersections, or you obviously have to make a plan, but is it, large thoroughfares? I mean, in the city, we're talking El Camino Real, Encinitas, Lucadia, and you kind of blitz those areas?
So we look at data, like where are our collisions occurring, where are we, and are they speed related, where are we having speeding issues? We look at those, that data to figure out where to target our enforcement. But I also get a lot of citizen feedback of problem areas, even in residential neighborhoods, whether it be speed or stop sign violations, school zones. So even though we had a ton of motors, when we do these blitzes, we're also having our detectives suit up and go out and do enforcement for a day. Our cops units suit up and go out and do enforcement. So we have not just motors, but we have a ton of patrol cars. So the motors can go out and do speed. All the cars can be doing stop signs, stop lights, cell phone tickets. And it's kind of a combo of citizen feedback, and we're noticing that we're having problem areas.
That's excellent. Thank you very much.
The chair would like to comment a little bit here. Thank you very much for the enforcement. I want to let you know that we appreciate this, and I think all of the law-abiding citizens in town appreciate this. I'm not sure that the speeders appreciate it. My habit these days is to travel not exceeding the posted speed limit, and if I'm leading a parade, that's wonderful. Thank you. Are there any more comments from commissioners?
Yeah, just another question that kind of came to mind, given some of the conversation around Encinitas residents versus non-residents being the violators, whether it's speeding, running red lights. Is that, I'm sure it is captured, right? Because obviously you get their license information. Would it be burdensome for us to get that added? Just maybe as just a top line % of, all citations, or certain ones, maybe just speeding and red lights, X% resident versus non?
We can get that info. I can try to get that to you next month.
Yeah, that might be useful, just given the conversations and things that are going on around our awareness and everything. And if we're doing educational programs and they're for Encinitas residents, well, if the majority of our problems are external, then that, what's the next step then? It just helps inform better decisions. That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we've finished our questions and comments, commissioners. Thank you very much for the presentation, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Next item on the agenda is the action item. Item A, AB 43, residential streets list additions. Is there a presentation from the engineering department on this?
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. We have our traffic engineer Ian Barr here tonight, who worked on this item. He'll be presenting this for us.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ian Barr. I'm one of the traffic engineers here with the city, and I'll be talking about item 7A, which is the residential streets on the AB 43 streets list. Oh, can I use the clicker? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so some background. Assembly Bill 43 essentially allows us to reduce the speed limits on roads in our city by 5 miles per hour. Some of the key provisions of this Assembly Bill, certain business and residential districts can be 25 mile per hour speed limit zones, and then also city roads identified as safety corridors or roads with high concentrations of pedestrians and cyclists and vulnerable groups present can be reduced by 5 miles per hour as well. So here is our current AB 43 map highlighting all of the roads where we have implemented that 5 mile per hour reduction already. So the blue roads, the blue highlighted roads, are all of the roads that were roads with a speed limit of 30 miles per hour or higher. And then all of the roads that are in red were the residential local 25 mile per hour roads that were within close proximity of the schools. So a little bit more background. So the AB 43 street list can be modified once a year through a new ordinance. City Council does have the authority to add or remove roads. And the safety corridor list, a safety corridor is essentially the roads that have the highest concentrations of severe and fatal injuries in the city. Those roads make up this safety corridor list. That list cannot exceed 20% of the city's total street mileage. So that's one of the requirements of that assembly bill. And then also this year earlier, we approved a policy that allows residents on their local roads to go ahead and apply for their street to get that 5 mile per hour reduction as well. And there's 2 criteria to meet. The first one is their road needs to be a residence district. And then it also has to be a road that generates high concentrations of bikes and peds, where at least 5 of the generators in the table I'll show you in the next slide are present within a distance of 1,320 feet, which is 0.25 miles, just a quarter of a mile. So the left shows the vehicle code. So a residence district is essentially every 0.25 miles, a road has to have at least 13 driveways with frontage on one side of the road, or combined on both sides of the road, 16 total, every 0.25 miles. And if the road that they're applying for isn't 0.25 miles, that same ratio applies. And then the table on the right is the high concentrations of ped and bikes table that the MUTCD provides. So part of this criteria was the road that wants to get their speed limit reduced would have to have at least 5 of these generators listed in this table within 1,320 feet. So it could be employment centers, retail, schools, transit stops, sidewalks, crosswalks, bikeways presence, and stuff like that. So over the past 12 months or so, we received 12 requests for roadways to be considered to get this additional 5 mile per hour reduction. San Elijo, Andrew Avenue, Sanford, Cornish, San Diego, Ocean Cove, Clark Avenue, La Mirada, Del Riego, Del Rio, Puebla, and Union. And 11 out of the 12 did meet the AB 43 street list criteria per this policy. The only one that didn't was San Elijo Avenue because it didn't meet that first criteria. It was not a residence district. It didn't have the minimum number of driveways present to meet. So that concludes that presentation. Open for any questions.
Yeah, I was just.
Pardon.
I'm sorry.
First, we need public speakers.
Okay, better yet.
We don't have any public speakers on this item.
Okay. All right, one more time. Yeah, I was just curious. So we've got 12 people that requested this. Did you do some sort of democratic process around there to find out if everybody wanted it, or how did that work?
Our current policy doesn't require anything like our speed cushion application, where you have to get signatures and a petition from 10 residents along the road. The way it's written now, any one resident can go ahead and reach out to staff to ask for that evaluation. But we have talked about that internally, and that's something we could implement, something like you mentioned, to have more force behind that before staff evaluates. But as of right now, a single resident on that road can reach out and request an evaluation.
So can a single resident then reach out and request that be removed or something like that?
I don't. Do we have a removable thing?
No, basically, if they meet the criteria, then they meet the criteria. It's not a matter of preference. They basically ask us to evaluate the road to see if the safety conditions that MUTCD created that table for those concerns, the criteria is there on that street. in the perfect world, we'll have enough staff to evaluate all the roads of the city and just present to council the hundreds of roads that would qualify, and then council would have, all the time in the world to evaluate those streets one by one to see which one they want to lower streets on. The direction that council provided us last year, or the year before that, maybe 2 years ago, was to start within quarter miles of the schools, focus on those, which we did. Secondary to that, when we went to council, we said, okay, now we have residents asking about their streets also to be lowered if it meets the criteria. Council direction to us was, as long as they meet 5 criteria from the MUTCD table, it's fair to include them in the program. Now, council will still have to approve this. This is not commission approving the lowering of speed limit on these streets. These 11 will go to council to be added to the ordinance for AB 43.
Okay, it's just surprising everything else if you're putting some traffic, as we discussed, when you're putting traffic signals in a neighborhood, you go through this process where you poll people in the affected area. I'm just surprised in this case it's just sort of one person wants slower.
That's correct. We did talk about having a potential petition in place for, because our speed cushion program right now requires like 10 signatures, but still, 10 signatures is not, like after that, after we evaluate in our speed cushion program, it goes to neighborhood vote. Now for this, it's a little different. It's kind of like a stop sign, for example. If one single resident asks us to evaluate an intersection and we identify that it qualifies, we don't put it to neighborhood vote because it meets the code. Now, council direction to us was if it meets 5 of the criteria on the table, in our opinion, being council, the road qualifies. So it doesn't really go back to the neighborhood's vote for that matter, unless, council can always change it to say, okay, within quarter mile of the school, we want to forcefully lower speeds. But other than that, in other areas of the city, if they meet 5 criteria of the MUTCD table and there's a high concentration of bikes and peds, okay, they qualify, but still put it to neighborhood vote. We can do that. Maybe the next time we bring it to council in a couple of months, again, after this is reviewed tonight, we can incorporate that question into the presentation to say our program right now, as you questioned, all it requires is one resident asking about evaluation. If it evaluates, if it qualifies, then we'll bring it to you, council, for approval. Do you want another step in there? Do you want a petition? Do you want a neighborhood vote before we bring it to commission or not? That's certainly a possibility. It can be commission's recommendation to us to incorporate that into the recommendation to council.
Okay, that would certainly be my request. And then I remember seeing a presentation probably last year talking about the impact of reducing the speed limits. And what I want to, but I'm just want to verify what my recollection is. For the higher speed limits, when you go from like 35 to 30, you had a more of an impact on slowing it down, and then as you reduce in speeds, there was less and less impact on actually slowing the speeds down. What are you anticipating as you slow this down? What is this, from 25 to 20, or what do you anticipate how much impact that's going to be based on previous studies?
Yes, your recollection is correct. So our before-after study showed that the effectiveness of the program was higher on higher speed roads, as you mentioned. If a road was 50 miles per hour, we lowered it to 45. It was more, the 85th showed that it lowered a lot more compared to the lower speed road. It was still effective, not as effective as higher speed roads. That's the correct.
And so what based on the past ones, what was the impact in terms of miles per hour? Are we on an average for that 85th percentile expecting a reduction? If we're going from 25 to 20, what's the net effect? Is it going to be more like a reduction of 1 mile per hour or something, or 5, or what should we?
Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest, to what the exact average number of miles per hour reduction was post implementation of AB 43. But I do remember, as you said, that higher speed roads saw a better reduction.
Because my recollection was that it was pretty small when you got down to going from 25 to 20. It was almost negligible.
I do remember it wasn't the most efficient measure, which
Okay.
I guess we all kind of anticipate. Like it's pretty hard to sustain a less than 20 mile per hour speed on a nicely paved roadway with minimal conflict. So I don't want to say it's not effective. It certainly does. Like people do notice 20 mile per hour. It does have that surprising, at 20, because it's not usual. People, when they see 20 mile per hour sign, it certainly does have an effect. People notice the sign because it's, again, kind of unusual to have 20 mile signs. But because of the fact that it's such a low speed and with today's cars and how, the accelerations have gone, they're way faster than they used to be. It's kind of hard to keep your vehicle below 20. I think that's the reason why the 85th are not going
Right.
as low as.
So I guess I just kind of question the merits of this, but I mean, that's not really, I guess, anything for you to respond to. But you've got a process where only one person in the neighborhood apparently enables the reduction in the signage, and then the net effect is it probably doesn't make a heck of a lot of difference anyway. So I'm just kind of wondering why we're doing it. And I don't expect a response for that, but that's my comment, I guess. Thank you.
Any other commissioners have comments? Gosh, I guess it's up for me to comment. I don't know if reduction in speed limits on these streets will improve traffic safety, which is the key thing that we're interested in here. But it might be worth trying it and letting the council then take the heat from the residents. We don't seem to have any public comments, so I assume this is not something that affects anyone in the room except us. Is it time to entertain a motion to pass this on to council, or do we want to discuss further?
Is there even a motion that we need to entertain, or is this informational only?
Oh no, this is action. When we take it to council, we would provide commission's recommendation for council.
Okay.
So,
This is Commissioner Trout. I move that we approve the 11 streets that the traffic department is recommending for the lower speed limits.
I guess I'll just make one last comment before we vote. If the residents of the neighborhoods had actually voted for this, I would vote for it as well. Given that it's only one individual from each one of those streets, I'm sort of reluctant to do something which I don't really think has a lot of value, sort of foisted it on the whole neighborhood just because one person is asking for it. But go ahead, let's vote.
Well, I think that's speculative to a certain degree. Certainly one person can, make a comment to the city, but I don't know, Abe, if you want to kind of weigh in on this. But I understand where you're coming from on that. I think we should move forward on this. This is something that can be adjusted every year. So if there is a particular street that doesn't the commissioners and the community feels like it doesn't qualify to have that reduction, then we can change it.
Yeah, I said it can be added to the commission's position or recommendation that you pass this to council with the added recommendation of addition of a neighborhood voting process for these lists of streets or for future streets, and then we can pass it to council to say this was a recommendation of commission. They supported this, but they liked the neighborhood to be involved, and council at that point can say, yes, it's a good idea, stop this now, do a petition, do a voting process through the neighborhood, or no, because it's a safety thing, neighborhood vote shouldn't affect this, we lower the street speed limits, or tighten the criteria. Instead of meeting 5 out of that table, council can say convert it to 10, because this was just last year. It's the first round of revisions to the program. So council can change the criteria to say instead of meeting 5 criterions, next round, make sure the streets meet 10 of them. Or both 10 of them, and has to have neighborhood vote. The council can add all that. At the current state of the program, this revision, this change in the list of the streets was approved by council. So this is not a staff policy. This is a council-approved policy. So I cannot deviate. If commission says, go do a neighborhood vote, it would be going against current council policy. But it certainly doesn't mean that commission cannot recommend, when we take the list to council, that council, we recommend adding a neighborhood voting process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Commissioner Johnson here. I'd be more comfortable with it if the table of streets indicated the present speed limits there, because reducing 25 to 20 is not going to do much, but reducing 35 to 30 might be more useful.
There is no street with the speeds 30 or higher in the city that does not have AB 43 applied to it. Every street that has a speed limit of 30 or higher in the city was lowered by 5 miles per hour per AB 43. So the only streets that are remaining are our residential roads that are 25 miles per hour prima facie, and those can be reduced to 20 with AB 43. Last cycle, like 2 years ago when we started, the only streets that council directed us to evaluate were streets within a quarter mile of the schools. But any other street, any other residential street of the city that still can qualify was never evaluated. And these streets are amongst those.
But Abe, just to clarify, this list was reviewed and approved by City Council. Is that correct?
Not this list. The change in AB 43 list was approved by council. Like how we can add a street to the AB 43 list, that program change was approved by council. So like meeting 5 criterions off of that table, that number 5 was approved by council. Request received from public, we evaluate, we add to the list once a year, that was approved by council.
Okay. So this list of 12 streets was generated by public input?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But we couldn't force them to submit a petition, the residents, because council never told us to. Or put it to neighborhood vote for that matter. It wasn't included in the program. But I said, when we present it to council, we can add these recommendations to the program if that's commission's direction.
Yeah, I don't have any further comment. I mean, I think I stated my position pretty clearly.
That kind of covers it. Do we have a motion one way or another?
Oh, we did have a motion from
Patricia.
Patricia votes. Do we have a second?
A second.
No further comments seen. Let's have a vote on this.
Sure. Chair Patricia Trouth,
Yes.
Vice Chair Glenn Johnson,
It's the other way.
Just orally.
We're doing it orally. I'd vote no on this at the present time.
Chris Duncan,
Yes.
Paul Templin,
No.
and David Thiele.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'd like to just make a comment after we voted. So, I just want to emphasize that this is something that would be in effect for a year, and if it proves to be not something that the community embraces, then, it's something we can change. Thank you.
Okay, next item, Birmingham Drive marked crosswalk. Item B, recommended action is to discuss and provide recommendations to staff. Is there a staff report on this?
Yeah, we have a presentation. Okay, hi everyone again. My name's Ian Barr, and I'll talk about this Birmingham Drive crossing item here, 7B. So the introduction real quick. So project WP-3, this is on the MTSC work plan titled Birmingham Drive Pedestrian Mobility, proposes and asks staff to evaluate a marked crossing at the intersection of Birmingham Drive and Lagaye Drive. So the vicinity map is below. You got Birmingham Drive, 30 miles per hour. And then you have Lagaye Drive. They have a stop control, but Birmingham is no controlled there. And then an always stop at Freda Lane, about 150 feet east of Lagaye Drive. So we took a look at both of these intersections, did a couple site visits and got some data. And given the close spacing of these intersections, around 150 feet or so between Lagaye and Freda Lane, city staff does recommend placing the marked crosswalk on the west leg of this Birmingham Drive and Freda Lane intersection, as shown in this exhibit here. Some of kind of what we took into account for this proposed design. This Freda Lane intersection is always stop controlled, so cars are already stopping at all directions. There is presence of street lighting. And we did do some data collection, and there were around 50 or 60 pedestrians using this intersection and crossing Birmingham each day, as opposed to around 2 or 3 using that Lagaye. And in terms of the constructability at Lagaye, it would require a bit of finesse to get some curb ramps and some street lighting and everything involved there. So this Freda Lane intersection appeared to be not only much simpler, but potentially a much safer crossing if we were to add one here on this west leg. So that's what staff is proposing. Maybe we go back. That does conclude the presentation here.
Any questions from the public? Any pink slips?
No,
Oh.
no comments.
Any comments from commissioners?
Yes, I have a comment. So this is my area that I'm driving in on a very regular basis, and I just want to emphasize that we have a sidewalk that's on Birmingham on the north side of the roadway. It goes down past Lagaye, and then it's I'm going to say about maybe 150 feet down, then it ends in a slope. At that point, you also horizontally have a roadway that's curved, and then it's also vertically you're going downhill, so it's hard to see. I understand that the sidewalk couldn't be continued because it would require some pretty substantial retaining walls. But I think we are, I'm just concerned that we're, having pedestrians go down Birmingham, and then, at the end of the sidewalk, they're trying to cross the street. And I have seen this. My other comment is at Freda Lane, there is, stop signs, but people roll through that stop sign. And the sheriff's department in the past has, had someone there to kind of mitigate that. And, you know, I think it's time. It happens very regularly, particularly in the morning. So it is something that, you know, I'd like to see a little bit more enforcement in that area to train people not to roll through the stop sign. But I guess I'm wondering what the downside is to putting a crosswalk at Legay and Birmingham.
Yes, Commissioner. Two concerns when we started evaluating this. The pure number of pedestrians crossing at Frida Lane compared to Legaya obviously can be interpreted by assuming because there's no marked crossing on Legaya, the number of pets is different. It certainly is much higher than that, like from 2 to 60. I mean, I doubt that if we add a crossing, it would increase that much. But the two main concern, as our engineer mentioned, the most important one is the fact that there is a controlled intersection with ample lighting at this location. It's a stop-controlled intersection. Obviously, safety is of paramount importance, and the fact that cars come to a complete stop makes the crossing much safer, no matter what kind of illumination or what kind of delineation, striping, RFBs, shark teeth, whatever we add at Legaya, it will never be as safe as Frida Lane because of the fact that it's an always stop control. One was that. Second was the fact that it's such a short, like our standard block is 440 feet, and this is just less than 200, like 160 or something. So the crossing time is our average speed for a pedestrian, for an elderly Permi TCD, I believe is like 3 feet per second. So this is less than a minute to get to the Frida Lane from Legaya, so like 45 seconds on a lower side pedestrian speed. So it's not that long of a distance. And then the third, as again Ian mentioned, I don't know, well, you're probably looking at the presentation too. As you can see, on both sides of Legaya, we have two major driveways, and these potential crossings would go into people's driveways. And then we would have to put aluminum, we have to put some sort of a street light above people's driveways, above people's houses. So there are a little bit, again, it's not impossible physically. We can still mark the crossing. It would have to be like a dogleg crossing or a tilted crossing. But as you can see, both sides kind of go into an existing residential driveway. So due to these various reasons, we thought, I mean, if Frida Lane was not a stop-controlled intersection, if it was like a full block away or, 600, 700 feet away, we probably would have spent a lot more energy trying to fit a crossing at Legaya. But because of these concerns that I mentioned, we think Frida Lane would be a better option.
Yeah, and I'd like to add a little to that. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Dan Nutter. I'm the Director of the Engineering Department and the City Engineer. Abe mentioned a lot of really important items there. One thing that I also wanted to add to that is when you have an enhanced crosswalk that's painted, it gives pedestrians a sense of safety. And when you have an uncontrolled intersection, there's a sense of safety that a pedestrian may take, and they won't look, I shouldn't say they won't, they may not look both ways, and that does create safety concerns. So pedestrians can still cross Birmingham at Legaya, but being unmarked, they are going to be more careful, and it is going to be on the pedestrians, in the pedestrian's best interest to ensure that it is a safe opportunity to cross. While at Freda, as a pedestrian, they should look both ways regardless if it's a stop-controlled intersection or not. But having all vehicles come to a complete stop and, again, with the sheriff's office assistance, ensuring that we have a little bit of an increase in enforcement there, that is a much safer opportunity. So because of those reasons, we really feel keeping the crossing, the marked crossing at Freda and not having a crossing at Legaya, a marked crossing, is the most safe approach here.
Well, I guess I have to say I kind of respectfully disagree. This is an area that I'm traveling through multiple times in any given day. So the first thing is, Frida Lane, you're saying that's a four-way stop, but it's not. You have people rolling through that. There's in the morning from 7:30 to 8:30, there is a backup of people that want to get on the freeway, and they're rolling through there. And someone like myself that's trying to make a right-hand turn from Legay onto Birmingham, it's pretty difficult to do that. So, so what I'm saying is it's difficult for a vehicular traveler at that intersection, and that makes it just that much more unsafe for a pedestrian. So, it's not an expensive improvement. I think it's something that will make the vehicular users as well as pedestrians feel a little safer at Legay and Birmingham if we have if we have a crosswalk.
Yeah, I can make a comment here, I guess. I was just curious, the data that was collected, when was it collected? Was it done over the summer or?
It was recent.
Okay.
It was a
Because
few
I
weeks
know,
ago,
I remember one of the comments was that there's more people walking down to the beach during the summer or something like that. But you collected the data over the summertime, so that's probably not a valid argument. And I'm not that, I guess, besides the fact that there would be more stop signs, would it be possible to put like a four-way stop there or something like that to address this concern? Or that just seems like, because then the cars would be stopping and people could cross, or that just seems unnecessary because 160 feet away is already a four-way stop.
That, and there is a METCD criteria for stop signs. They're not discretionary, so I cannot, and commission cannot just decide to put a stop sign. We have to see if it meets the criteria, which based on experience, I would give it
Okay.
very, very small
And
chance.
then,
I don't think it will qualify.
the third query is, would it be possible maybe to at least put a sign or something like that to advise people that they should cross at the crosswalk 160 feet away and not, or do something like that?
I don't think there is a standard METCD sign for that, but we can certainly look into some sort of a custom sign that says crossing at,
Yeah,
marked
please.
crossing at
Okay.
Frida Lane, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to point out on the other side of Highway 5, on the west side, we have two traffic signals that are very close. So there is, on Birmingham, there's a lot of activity. I mean, there's some precedent for having, in my opinion, a crosswalk there. And I guess I really didn't, could you answer my questions though? What is the downside if we put the crosswalk at Legay and Birmingham?
Yeah, one concern was what our director mentioned about not necessarily false sense of security, but the combination of comfort with the fact that there is minimal lighting there and drivers don't, expect when there's no active traffic control and there's a stop sign, when there's a signal, obviously, driver compliance, vehicle compliance is a lot more than a standard crossing. Introducing RFP obviously is one option, but we have residences here, and these, usually RFPs that close to residences are not the best. So we do need to do some sort of a additional measure there. If I go to the street view, the other option is, as you can see, let me go further back. There are driveways here on both sides that kind of limit the. So this corner goes straight into this driveway, and the other corner goes to the other driveway. So there would have to be some modifications to this too. Yeah, it's a combination. There's no absolute no about this, Commissioner Trouth. It's not like it doesn't, there is a code that says you shall not do this. It's just a combination of factors. Existing always stop control, which is the best location for a crosswalk. Physical constraints like the driveway locations on both sides. Lack of street lighting, there is one here, there's nothing on the other side, I believe. So there are complications. It's not impossible, it's doable. It's just, we don't see, creating a $50,000 project out of this where there is a, 150 foot from here, there is a crossing that takes like 45, 50 seconds to get to.
Okay, so I guess the other thing is has the city ever thought about removing that sidewalk? Because it's misleading. It leads people to, to a slope. And, when they're walking down the street, they're going to try to cross the street because the sidewalk ends. So has that ever been thought about? Or
Yeah, that's a good point. We can certainly look into some sort of a sidewalk closed ahead signage to kind of notify when people get to this intersection, or even in advance of this intersection, even at Frida, to kind of notify people that the sidewalk continues only for 2 blocks and doesn't go any further. So if they want to get to the freeway, they have to cross here. We can certainly look into some sort of informational signage to advise people to cross at Frida if they want to go toward the freeway. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then I just want to emphasize again, I do think that, we do need to have some enforcement at Frida and Birmingham. And we have in the past, and it's been effective. It's just been a while. But, it's, people pretty regularly, in the morning roll right through those stop signs.
Patricia, I know you're not in the room, but the sheriff is nodding her head right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more comments? And we've heard from the public on this. Amanda?
We have no public comment.
No public comments. I'd like to suggest that of these 2 intersections, it looks like Legay is a problem here because, and perhaps a sign should say, do not cross here. There has to be some standard sign that says, do not cross. And beefing up the pedestrian crossing at Frida Lane seems like to be more of a winner. That's just my opinion. Any other commissioners? Can we have a motion on this?
Yeah, I move that we vote on it.
Yeah.
Second?
Okay, what's the motion that we're voting on?
The motion would be to approve the city's recommendation for Frida, but to put signage in order to discourage people from crossing the street, either at Legay or earlier to advise people they need to cross at Frida or something to that effect.
So I think what the city is recommending, and I certainly support, is to have an additional crosswalk. So there's one there, and then attachment 3 kind of shows the location of the 2 crosswalks.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yes, attachment 3 is definitely something that we want.
So attachment 3 plus additional signage at Frida Lane to advise people to cross to the other side if they want to walk toward the freeway.
Yeah, that's the motion?
Yes, it is.
Can we call for the question, or you have your light on?
No, I'll second that.
Yeah, you just second.
Okay. A vote, please.
Chair Patricia Trouth,
Yes.
Vice Chair Glenn Johnson,
Yes.
Chris Duncan,
Yes.
Paul Templin,
Yes.
and David Thiele.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Let's see, next agenda item is letter to City Council regarding the state of emergency due to traffic fatalities. Is there a staff report on this, or just the letter?
No, Chair. The letter was drafted by Commissioner Trouth as directed by the commission at the previous meeting.
And Mr. Vice Chair, I would like to read something into the record, if I could, please. We don't have a staff report, but I would like to read into the record some of the great work that we're doing in the engineering department and the city as a whole, as well as the sheriff's office, to help continue providing traffic safety. So in mid-2024, we did lower the speed in a lot of our major roadways. As our city traffic engineer mentioned a little earlier, every roadway in the city that was 35 miles an hour or higher has been reduced in speed. In July of this year, our city council did approve the inclusion of 2 new traffic deputies for the sheriff's office. On a monthly basis, our sheriff's office does blitzes, as our sheriff's department had mentioned a little earlier, and those monthly blitzes have been really a huge, impactful modification of how we're doing enforcement, and the sheriff's office has been doing really good on that. So that's been huge for us, and we really appreciate those efforts. From a capital project standpoint, we currently have 12 projects that are either recently constructed or are in construction right now, and another 10 projects that are currently in the design phase. And of those 22 projects, they have a lot of really important traffic safety features, which include rectangular rapid flashing beacons to provide enhanced crosswalks, increased conflict striping for bicyclists, the inclusion of additional buffered bike lanes, leading pedestrian intervals at our traffic signals, speed radar feedback signs at areas where we see a little heightened speeds by vehicles, narrowed travel lanes to help induce reduced speeds, high visibility pedestrian crosswalks, additional caution signage, speed cushions, protected bike lanes, new pedestrian paths, chicanes, roundabouts, and additional street lighting at heightened locations. So that's all I have to add.
So I'd like to just speak a little bit about the letter, and I want to remind all the commissioners that we make recommendations. We don't make decisions. So this is making some recommendations to City Council. The first paragraph, I wanted to reinforce to City Council that we have a lot of the community that comes to our meeting, and the mayor in our April and June meetings, our joint meetings, kind of encouraged us to be kind of the conduit for the community to be able to comment on various items that have to do with pedestrian safety and bicycle safety. And so, for me, I wanted that paragraph in there that they understand that what we're trying to do is just reinforce what the community is telling us. I want to be very transparent on the letter being written and the recommendations. Commissioner Gross worked with me on quite a bit, and then lastly, I did see Commissioner Maddox's comments, and so this is a draft letter, so this is an opportunity for us to emphasize certain things, delete certain things. So, I have my comments, but I'd like other commissioners to comment, and then I'll kind of comment towards the end. Thank you.
Amanda, had we had any public comments on this?
We do. We have two public speakers on this item.
Let's hear them.
First, we have Rihanna Gluer, followed by Judy Burlfine.
I just have what do you call it? I've never said this before, point of order. I don't know if that's the right word to use here. But are we going to vote on this again? We already voted on it once. Are we at some point going to vote on this a second time, or how does this work?
Yes, you have to agree on the content of the letter. If there is no support from the commission on this letter, it wouldn't go out.
Okay, because
So
I
the
thought we
previous-
already directed
It was
Patricia
a
to
motion
write the
to
letter,
draft
but
the letter.
okay.
So the letter was drafted per the previous motion. This time, if there is a motion, the motion can be, oh, we don't like this letter, or the motion can be, we like this letter. Chair, send it like this to council, or with these changes, send it to council.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I am here representing Safe Streets Encinitas, which is a group of parents and educators that we formed after the death of Emery. I wanted to thank you guys for voting to move that ahead before, and just wanted to say that our group does support the letter, and we hope that you guys will too. We think that declaring the state of emergency is very important to open up additional resources for infrastructure improvements. Thank you.
Next, we have Judy Burlfine, followed by Molly Hintlian.
Thank you. Per the letter that has been submitted, the third recommendation is to reinstate automated enforcement on highway injury-prone corridors. We used to have red light cameras. Today, within the last few hours, the governor signed a bill that would totally upgrade and improve the red light camera program. So many of the problems that people were concerned about with the previous program have been fixed. I'll just read you a little bit in the time that I have. Most notably, the legislation shifts liability from drivers to vehicle owners, similar to parking and other vehicle fines. Points are no longer added to licenses, and insurance companies will no longer be involved. The cameras will no longer need to take pictures of drivers. The legislation also changes the way fines are collected, starting at $100 and increasing with repeated fines, and adds a $50 late fee. Funds collected from the program will be reinvested in traffic safety. Last, the legislation sets a requirement for how long yellow lights should last. So I think it's very exciting that this was just signed and we can move forward and put red light cameras in and save lives of more people moving forward so other families don't have to go through what Emery's family is going through. Thank you.
Good evening, Molly Hintlian, District 2. I want to, it's not a popular decision. I'm against the letter from a state of emergency. I feel like we can accomplish a lot of these goals without stating a state of emergency. And I want to preface, notwithstanding that the city is pending litigation, so I want to focus on that I feel declaring an emergency puts the onus on the state or the city when it's individuals. And I think some good ideas, I'm not against the cameras, I'm not against all these measures of improving our safety. And again, October is National Pedestrian Safety Awareness Month. What a great opportunity the city could have focused on this, and perhaps next year, but let's not wait a whole year. I really feel that community mindfulness and driver behavior, and we need to focus on programs. And if we're afraid that, oh, it's people from other cities committing these crimes, then we need to include our sister cities and have it as a collaborative, because people from Carlsbad do drive through Encinitas, and people from Encinitas drive to Poway and Vista for work. and they may be committing crimes there. So it is a bigger picture item. So I guess from a standpoint of this letter, just flagging, oh, we declared a state of emergency, everything's fixed now. When in fact, yes, if it opens doors for grants, most of the grants we're already getting were done from just our work. And yes, unfortunately, some of the grants we qualify for are because of our high rate of incident. So we have many open HSIP grants in progress. I really thought, here it is, October, we were supposed to be hearing about the status of the work plan for the update for Encinitas Boulevard from Kelly Magdalena up to Belore, and it's been radio silent. So those are the updates. I applaud Dan Nutter for giving us an update of all the projects that are going on. I just feel like we need to keep focusing on the projects we have, and if the ones we're prioritizing aren't the priority, then we need to reshift that. Do we need to declare a state of emergency and sit on our laurels and wait for someone to, tell us what priorities? So that's where I'm coming from. Thanks.
That concludes public speakers.
Thank you. Now we can deliberate this item. Are there any comments from commissioners?
Yeah, the reason I was asking the question earlier is I felt like we sort of beat this to death in the last meeting. So, where we voted on this, and I think it's really up to the other commissioners that voted for Patricia to do this to provide comment on the content. If you guys are comfortable with the content, we can move forward.
This is Patricia. I'm just going to chime in here. As I mentioned before, this is a draft letter. I looked at and reviewed Commissioner Maddox's email over the weekend, and if the other commissioners are in support of this, I think that item number 2 could be classified as redundant. So I'm suggesting that we take that out. And then item number 3, I'm recommending that we delete the cameras operate nonstop and free deputies for other priorities. It's commentary, so it's not needed. And I think it just kind of perhaps confuses people. So that's a recommendation that I'm making, that the recommendation number 2 be deleted and 3 be edited. And I think the letter needs to be sent, because I really feel that we need to tell City Council that we're listening to the community. So, I want to see us move forward with the letter. If in the first paragraph, if we want to, on the second last line, if we want to take out the emergency declaration and say City Council move forward on elevating this issue, period, I'm good with that. So I, again, would like to get some feedback from some of the other commissioners.
Thank you. Any other feedback?
Yeah, I have a few comments. Chair Trouth, I support this draft, and I think we should submit it. I would comment that we experienced a state of emergency, and I support the chief engineer, what he said, and that is there have been vast improvements in all aspects, and we can see and experience this when we're driving, riding, and walking through our streets. There's no question. And I would say part of those improvements are due to the declaration that was made in the previous administration. And my feeling is that it's a cumulative effect. We can continue on with your projects and support those the best that we can, and with your recommendation and Abe's recommendation. And I think it's critical that we keep moving forward. And this is one step that we can submit to the council. And we absolutely, like Chair Trouth, we do it every meeting where we listen to the comments of the community, and it's necessary that we submit this, and it will support your work that you're doing. We'll continue to do that, and I think it's vital that we move forward. We submit this, and keep moving forward.
I'm curious to make sure for all of us to have the full picture. What are the negative implications for a city to do this? Because there's obviously energy against it. Aside from just, additional work, if this gives the city the ability to usher in additional things beyond what the city's already done, that's obvious. Cost of doing those things, that's obvious. But if they're done for the right purpose, then those are costs the city should incur. So I don't know if we know here among us what is a significant or material negative of doing this.
So I think part of the question, and this was discussed at last meeting, was whether there may be financial implications for declaring a state of emergency. There was discussion of whether that would open up federal or state funding. And I do want to clarify for the commission that does not open up additional funding for the city. So simply stating that or declaring a state of emergency, we still would have the same fiscal constraints that we do today. And as I did read into the record earlier, we are taking very impactful steps to continue providing very important traffic safety features for the city. So from a standpoint of whether there's a negative, I think the important part is ensuring that we are prioritizing the right traffic devices. And, part of that are recommendations that come out of our department. And then part of that as well are items that the city council would like to continue prioritizing. And, city council has obviously made it very clear that enforcement is a high priority. I think it's been seen and witnessed that education for travelers, that doesn't mean just drivers, but also bicycle riders and pedestrians, is extremely important. And a big part of that education is enforcement. There are a lot of steps that are currently being done and will continue to be done. So I think that's a strong, answer to maybe that question, Commissioner Duncan.
Yeah, thank you. Kind of following on what Commissioner Thiele was saying, we've heard a lot of people here having issues and feel the need to do this. Obviously, that's not the majority of people. It's just the ones that have come here. But so as this commission, I think it's our responsibility to be that voice. So in that regard, I'm in favor of it. Though also, if it means in any way that it would put pressure on the commission, I mean, the council's got to decide, right? They could either say yes or no. And not to say we're kicking the can to them, because we don't have the ability to make a decision like that, we just recommend. But we've heard it from the population, and I think it's just, we'd be remiss in our duty not to. And I'm not saying I disagree with doing it, but I also, though, just want to always keep in context of, everything that we're talking about kind of stems from, I'd say 90%, 95% of vehicular traffic. Whether it's speeding, law, braking, whatever, it's cars that cause harm. But it's the driver in the car, I'm sorry. But my thing is, and I mentioned this before, is to be as forward-looking as possible. And if this is a tool that we can implement that might help us do things, preparing for the future better, then that's another reason I'm in favor of it. My main concern are the two developments going in on Encinitas Boulevard, one at Quail Garden and one at Rancho Santa Fe, that are going to create immense amounts of traffic on roadways that exist right now without the infrastructure to support it. And whether it be red light cameras or just a heightened sense of attention to that, because those two projects got rammed down the city's throat at the state level for all the reasons we know why. And I'm just looking forward to when those things are habitated. And that's just going to be more issues. And if this in any way gives us or the city some kind of tool to help with that, because we're not reversing those things, then I'm still in favor of this, even if there are some, even if it's just a perceptual negative look at the city from the state level or something, which I think must be there as well.
Yeah, I don't perceive this creating any additional tools for City Council. City Council does have tools at their disposal, and from a standpoint of, I'm not going to speak for City Council, but I have been to a lot of City Council meetings recently, and this is a very hot topic. It's something that has been stated loud and clear for very good reasons of traffic safety. And from all of my interactions with the council members as the director of engineering, they take traffic safety very, very, that is a very high priority and important item for them. So from that perspective, it's not something that I think is unwarranted or unfathomed, that this is a priority for the council. And, from a standpoint of what particular traffic enforcement elements that they may want to consider, meaning, red light cameras, anything of that nature, those tools are in their tool belt if legally allowed. I'm still not quite sure for red light cameras. I know that we heard a little bit more information this evening that maybe the state did enact a recent new law for that, but I think the point that I'm trying to make is simply declaring a state of emergency is not going to open up any other doors for this city council, and they are making very large strides at continuing traffic enforcement and increased safety across the city.
Yeah, okay, thank you, I understand. And I'll just close with saying, and I think that's fine. I think then it's up to the council to communicate that to the populace when they make the decision to not pass this. It's just communication, right? It's messaging. But I think and even if it's just more out of principle than anything, as our purpose for being here is to forward this, whether it's slightly adjusted to Patricia's desire or leaving it as is, which I'm fine with doing. I don't think those changes will make an impact on it one way or the other, but I think it would be remiss as a commission in our position to not push this forward and let the council make the decision and explain why, because they could do it better than we can.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I guess we're going to sort of relitigate this like we did in the last meeting. This is a really emotional issue for a lot of people, and I completely understand. I live in that same neighborhood as well. But, it's not, I just feel it's not as straightforward as some people think, that we can force people to drive slower. And by putting more automated systems in, we can somehow force people to do what has already been alluded to, the densification in Encinitas, which is really, what's causing all this distress. Is we're living in a city that's becoming more and more crowded, and with people that are always in a hurry. And I certainly I support all the thoughts we have about enforcing the laws we currently have, and I think that that's really what we should be focusing on instead of trying to, create more infrastructure, just trying to really enforce what we have here. As we talked about, or we heard today, there's 22 projects that are in place right now that we really don't know what the effect of those are going to be. But those are projects that have been thought out and discussed over a period of time by both engineering and the city. And so I really don't think we understand what the impact of all those changes is going to be. And again, as tragic as the death was of her death, I really don't see this as being an emergency, and so we're calling it an emergency. We've been told it's really not going to have much of an impact on whether and what projects get passed. There have been a lot of people that have come to this commission that have stress their concern about safety in this city. But I will just reemphasize it's safety and mobility, and I hear people too, not always in this forum, but in our neighborhoods. I'm sure we all do. And one thing that is constantly stressed to me is how frustrated people are driving the streets, not just for issues with traffic violations, but just the gridlock that we face, and I think all of us face it all the time on the streets. And some of the things that have been discussed are really just going to make that worse, create more frustrated drivers, create more people frustrated with missing lights, and so turning on reds instead of waiting. And so I just don't see a lot of value to this letter. And so I'm planning on voting against it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'd like to propose that, this was a draft letter, that we put this back on the agenda for our next meeting, and I will, make edit the letter based on comments that I get from commissioners as well as the city, and revisit this at our next meeting.
That sounds like a reasonable idea, Patricia. I'd like to put in some comments here. I think of the 4 recommendations, the most concrete one is to reinstate automatic enforcement. And I'd like to make that the first recommendation rather than put it in the middle of them. Because that's something that can actually be funded and accomplished. Some of these other things are discussion items that will take forever. Regarding item 1, I would renumber that, of course, and change the word declare to evaluate, so that the council has full decision authority. We know what we'd like, but the council will have different ideas, and I'd hate to see the whole thing turned down because the council doesn't think it is a state of emergency that is. Remember, Vision Zero talks about no fatalities, and yet we've had 4 this spring, and that's outrageous. the streets of Encinitas are unsafe, and we need to do things to improve that. And the automated enforcement is one concrete thing that can be done. Regarding the high visibility enforcement, et cetera, in item 2, I'd like to, instead of say provide, I'd like to say continue providing, because that's what we're already doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Regarding number 4, it's nice if our IT department has the capability to develop such a dashboard. You know, it requires a vote of the council to fund it, of course. But I'm rather in favor of having that, even though it's a kind of a soft thing, because half of the population doesn't even use the internet. Those are my comments. We've done commenting, I think. Do we have a motion?
It sounds like Patricia's gonna. Do we have a motion for Patricia just to redo her letter, and we'll discuss it at the next meeting?
Is that a motion?
Can I amend that motion?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Patricia, maybe just, I guess I'm just struggling with the principle of the state of emergency declaration, right? It's more that, because the red light cameras, any of the tools that we say that we want to put in that are things we could do, and they're on our work plan. Basically, the red light cameras would fit work plan 4 and 11. And, you know, is the state of emergency declaration a means to an end to try to get to these, or can we do these without it? Because, you know, as much as I said I support the state of emergency, I mean, as more out of principle than anything, right? It's us doing our job to recognize what we've heard from folks. So having specific items in that request for the council to declare the state of emergency, I think may actually harm it, because they'll just say, well, you can accomplish those things outside of it. So, you know, I'm not sure, maybe we do just, you know, discuss this in more detail next month. I just feel like we keep kind of kicking the can without truly understanding what the point of it is.
And Mr. Vice Chair, if I could, I don't recollect if there's been discussion on what the state of California statutorily considers an emergent situation. So I would like to, I just looked it up, and I'd like to read that to the commission if you guys would like to hear. That might help either deciding what makes sense from a standpoint of moving forward with the letter or the contents of the letter.
Yeah, I've read it. I think most of us probably have.
Okay.
Majority of the items this doesn't qualify for.
Right.
It's natural disaster and things like that.
There's
a small element in it that would allow this to fall in that in a minor way. So aside from just taking the time, I appreciate that. I don't know if anybody else needs to have it read. But I know, I hear you. That's I'm sure what part of the reticence is to use it in a stretched way of saying, well, it just kind of is. But again, to my point of for us to decide, do we want to, Patricia, maybe your recommendation is good, that we just kind of discuss this next month.
Yeah, this has been really good feedback, and I apologize. There's another phone that's ringing here. But yeah, I'd like to, work on editing this to kind of address all the comments that I've heard this evening.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Was that the motion? Sorry. Chair Trouth?
To continue the item to the next month meeting, and then additional discussion and possible action.
She'll redraft it.
Okay. And then the second was Commissioner Thiele? Great, thank you. Chair Patricia Trouth?
Yes.
Vice Chair Glenn Johnson?
Yes.
Chris Duncan?
Yes.
Paul Templin?
Sure, yes. Let's talk about this some more next time.
And David Thiele?
Yes.
Amanda? What's the vote?
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
Yes, unanimously.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is City Traffic Engineer Report on the work plan.
Yes, thank you.
8A.
Thank you, Chair. The regular monthly updates. The first one is our work plan. Per the direction we received from the commission, we added some notes and history in here to kind of update the commission what's going on with each item. The subcommittees that were formed last month for the different programs, we added in here. And we are tackling them one by one. We already had a good meeting on the work plan item number 5 with the subcommittee. We are continuing on that. We are optimistic that we can bring it to commission in November. We covered work plan item number 3, and we are working on work plan item 10, work plan number 11. There are various items that we are currently working on, but the items that have subcommittees, Amanda will be working with the subcommittee members to schedule internal meetings and discussion meetings, and once we're ready to present them to the commissions, we'll come back.
We do have one public speaker on this item. Shall I go ahead?
Go ahead.
have-
Go ahead.
We have Rihanna Glore.
Hello. I just wanted to say a quick comment in regards to the MTSC work plan. We loved all the recommendations. We would just like to see these items prioritized as we think they'll have the most effect. The mobility recommendations, as this directly was related to minimizing traffic deaths, as well as prioritizing the circulation mobility review by schools, and consider opportunities to fund safer infrastructure through additional enforcement. We feel these items will have the most impact in keeping our community safe.
My apologies. I'm going to have to get off this meeting right now, so I'm sorry, but I will plan to see everyone at the next meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay. Do well in New Orleans.
Yes, thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. We finished that item, right? We've discussed the work plan a bit. What are the safety and mobility project updates?
This is my standard updates. Our LPI project is close to completion. Our striping is being completed. Signal infrastructure upgrades have already happened. Our bike emergency project is completed. Our permanent parking program did go to council. Council formed a subcommittee, and a meeting for the subcommittee to meet with public and discuss the details of the program is scheduled for November 6th. And the traffic calming project on Quill Gardens in Saxony is also completed recently.
Okay, any? That's the updates. No discussion?
I do.
What?
I have a comment.
You have a comment?
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. Abe, I have a question. Thank you for this information. I have a question. What is the definition of bike emergency? On this summer 2023, you've been working, or you mostly have been working on it for 2.5 years. But what was the definition of that bike emergency? Is that, or why is this called a bike emergency?
So, kind of similar to the previous items conversation, there was a fatality on El Camino Real. City Council at that point decided to declare emergency. I don't remember the exact phrase that was used. Was it like a bike safety emergency or citywide safety emergency? But City Council did declare emergency. And with that, there was direction to staff to come up with a certain list of projects that would enhance safety for bikes citywide. And staff came up with a list of projects and cost estimate associated with those, and council approved those projects and funded those, and the project was kicked off.
Great, thank you. By the way, I think that's been very effective. Thanks for your efforts.
If there's no more on this, this is the project updates. Development project updates.
Oh, yes, Chair. This, I usually don't present it. It's just for information for commissioners with regards to development projects happening in the city. If there are questions, I'd be happy to find answers for commissioners and provide updates to them.
I have a question about kind of the information and how we, or what we do with it, I guess. More of a request, Abe. Like, could more be put into the status? So, for example, the Preserve project, and maybe it's just the way it's kind of handled or processed, but the Preserve project, I believe now there's been 2 public hearings about it. The first one, the initial entry point of it was significantly opposed, and the developer came back last month, I think it was, and presented an alternate entry point. Like things like that, could those be included here so that we have a little sense of what's going on, or is that because it's not at the city level yet?
Yeah, I don't want to use, I don't want to hearsay, but a lot of times like these kind of info, like I've heard the same thing from our engineer who reviews this, that because of the concerns about the site distance at that potential original driveway that the developer had proposed, public pushback and concerns with regards to safety, developer has accepted to conduct a redesign. However, we haven't really received a redesign. So I can, to your point, I can ask the engineer to put more information in here, but for what's going to happen, obviously we'd have to wait to see, like in these cases, what's going to happen. We can say community meetings conducted, site distance evaluations in progress, or redesigning the works, or something to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, not to create again more work for the engineer's office, but something almost maybe in a way to just kind of at high level to say a change was made based on public feedback, or at least the developer said they were making a change, and in this case it's an entry point or something. Just something very high level is almost as a way to hold their feet to it, because if they don't make it and they come into the city and for whatever reason it gets approved against the public's original opinion for a safety reason, that, okay, where was it documented that they said they were going to do that, right? And so
Which again, as you mentioned, like there's no formal, like output of a community meeting is no way or form a new submittal by a developer. Right. Like they might say at the meeting with the public that, yeah, we hear you, we're going to redesign. But then what's going to actually come back to us, we don't know until we actually get it. Mm-hmm. But I get your point. Maybe elaborate a little bit more on the status of the review. I can.
Yeah, to some degree, just if there's been something.
And from a standpoint of the developers, each one of these developments, when they are going through the discretionary process, there are conditions that are attached to their application. So the engineering department, along with development services, we ensure that every city code and design standard that applies, that we are legally allowed to apply, gets included as a condition to that application. So from a standpoint, Commissioner Duncan, of how do we know what that development would be mandated to do and include, those would be within the conditions of approval that go through the Planning Commission process.
Okay. Because the issue of the initial entry point that they had proposed, the public was saying that it was not meeting the criteria that it would need to have for visual. The developer said it did. So, you know, the public has no idea what those true criteria are. But when the developer comes back and says they've changed it, well, clearly then either they were lying or did they have misinformation? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, what then becomes the public's recourse?
Totally, and absolutely understand where you're going with that. And from a standpoint of our engineering team's review, we do require that site distance design goes into every entry and exit point for private developments. So that's not something that would be disregarded by our engineers and our review team. So it doesn't matter how many cycles of review these applications go through. Some go through 2 or 3, some can go through 8, 9, 10. We keep a log of every comment that we make throughout the review process, and we ensure that as we make a comment, that comment gets addressed and incorporated properly, and we do not sign off on project applications and issue permits unless and until all of those comments are incorporated, meaning the comments that require, from a public improvement standpoint or a safety standpoint, get included from what is legally allowable by the city.
Okay, because that gets to the final point then. So there are black and white requirements in this case, specific case, site requirements for a driveway of like a development like this, that if wherever they position an entry point, if it does not allow some very black and white site parameters, it will not get approved by the city, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Commissioner Johnson here. Can I inquire about the status of the project just west of Clark Avenue?
Mr. Vice Chair, are you asking about the Clark Avenue Apartments project?
Yes.
We can get you an update. We're the engineering department, so we do not facilitate private development projects. That goes through the Development Services Department, but I have no problem looking into that and getting you a status update. I do know that they are currently under construction, so they are moving forward with their project.
Yeah, they've broken ground.
They have. Is there something specific that you'd like me to get back to you on?
There was some concern expressed on an internet site, not that the internet is more trustworthy than the government, but there were some comments that the entry road looks narrow, so narrow that the fire department may not be able to service it.
I know that unfortunately, I can't speak for the fire department. So I know that the fire department has been involved at every step of the way with this development, but I can't speak for them whether there are fire safety deficiencies for the project. From my understanding, all department reviews and requirements that, again, are legally allowed have been incorporated with this project. But that's something that the fire department would have to speak directly to. And I can get an answer to that if that would be something that would be helpful for you.
Okay, so you've answered it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I guess I wasn't planning on commenting on this, but what the heck. So I saw there for the project, some of them, they give you an estimate of the increase in daily trips and then, depending on the time of day, et cetera. And to be honest, that's not really helpful to me. I guess what I'm trying to understand when I look at that is whether it's going to make congestion worse on that particular street or not. Are there, I guess, two-part question, are there sort of statutory requirements or regulatory requirements that translate to mean that they can't make the traffic congestion any worse by that? Or if that's not the case, it would be helpful when looking at these to see, I understand that there's different classifications for different roads, like this might be a Class C or a Class D or something, and it would be helpful to understand if the 420 additional daily trips, does that kick you into a different classification for the road, or information like that would be useful on these updates?
Yeah, sure, Commissioner Templin. Really good question and input, and I'll look to our city traffic engineer to see if we can add any content. I do have more I do want to state to that, but is there more content?
Yeah, we sure can add a lot more information to these monthly updates. The only concern is that, like, knowing these, commission wouldn't have the position of changing. I mean, I hate to say this like this, but like it would be more just like an FYI, but just more information. So in case a resident asks you about something, you have more information.
Which they do, by the way.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not asking for a flood of information, but at some point, if you're not, it doesn't make the update terribly meaningful the way it's structured now, I guess is my feedback. 420 more trips, that doesn't,
So, yeah, and that point's well received. We'll see what information we might be able to add to help from a consumption standpoint. One thing that I did want to touch on, Commissioner Templin, not every private development project is required to go through the CEQA process. The CEQA process would be where you have to do a traffic impact analysis or study VMT, which would be vehicle miles traveled. And those would be the typical things from an environmental standpoint that have to be looked at and considered through a development process. We have a handful of what we call housing element sites here within the city, and those were state mandated sites, so they are considered by right. Those sites are categorically exempt from the CEQA process. So unfortunately, that does make things very difficult for us at the staff level, where we are not allowed to require any traffic impact analysis for those housing element sites. And, so because of that, it is impactful to the city and the job that we do within the engineering department and the traffic division. But kind of wanted to be clear on that. Where we can and we are legally able to require a traffic impact analysis, and where that analysis shows that there is a degradation in the level of service on a roadway, we will require that development to have public improvements as a mitigation measure for that private development. But again, unfortunately, the housing element sites, which are by right, those developers are allowed to request unlimited waivers and 3 concessions from the city, which typically get them out of most of our requirements, and then they're exempt from CEQA as well.
So what I hear you saying is not only does the developer not need to make the improvements to prevent any additional congestion, you don't even have the data to show whether that's happening or not, because the developers or the people that are generating this data. Is that correct? Or do you at least know what the impact's going to be? You just can't force the developer to do anything about it.
We have an idea of what the impact will be, meaning how many daily trips they'll have. Just knowing what the development site is, the number of parking spots they have, things of that nature, we can get an idea of what their average daily trips will be. And, just from a high level, our traffic engineering staff can kind of take a look at that and say, yeah, that's going to be a drop in the bucket. That's not a big deal. Or, hey, we've got a pretty congested roadway. That's not going to help at all. But yes, you're correct. We can't require them, if it is a by right site, to do that impact analysis, nor require them to do improvements for that impact.
Because not just as a commissioner, but as a resident of San Diego, I guess I would, or of Encinitas, I would, even if we couldn't do anything about it, I sure would want to know if there was going to be some expected impact that might compel me to complain about it.
Or move.
Or move, yeah.
Follow-up question then, to the list, I guess, maybe, could the properties that fall under that criteria be at least flagged? So when we see these development updates or projects, like, okay, this one's exempt, this one's not. And second question, is traffic impact, is that different than what I was referencing, where a line of sight safety issue, is that different?
Yeah, those are two different things. So a traffic impact would be number of vehicles on a road on any given day, and how many lanes we would need for that number of vehicles. Line of sight, that is more of a speed and visual need. So how much distance does a vehicle need to be able to see in front of them to be able to come to a safe stop, so that way there's not a collision? So, both safety elements that need to be looked at, but they are distinct and different.
So my understanding is, for example, on Encinitas Boulevard, with all these additional apartment buildings that they're putting on Saxony, Encinitas Boulevard is probably going to move from, I think, a C to a D classification, and so that sort of tells you that there's going to be a lot. I mean, we already know that anyway, right? But there's going to be a lot of congestion on that road after those are built. That's kind of my layman's understanding of what's going on. So anyway, it'd be nice to have, and I'm not asking for an encyclopedia. I'm certainly conscious of the engineering's effort, and certainly also understand that as commissioners, we can't really compel you folks to do anything, but it would be nice to have a little bit of information and give us an idea of what the impact of these developments is going to be.
And to clarify, it's not like the concerns that you have with regards to level of service, site distance, discretionary review, engineering standard, like objective standards. These are not done. These are all, like, all these questions that you might have, these are all asked and answered at our planning commission. So staff attends there, traffic engineering, planning staff, they all go to planning commission, and all these, like, the bread and butter, like half of the discussions at a planning commission about a development project is usually traffic. So it's a very hot topic at those planning commission meetings, the traffic impact, the trip generation, the ones that, as our director mentioned, the ones that we do have authority over with regards to evaluating their impact and asking for mitigations and limit the project if the impact is considered significant. So those projects, there's a lot of conversations and questions and comments about the project's impact at the planning commission.
Well, that's great. That means you already have the answers. You can, put it into the summary.
Yeah, those meetings go for like 6-7 hours. You think our meetings are long? Like, if there is a specific project, it's like hours of conversation about it. So, I'll probably send you the video file. That would be easier to get your question at that point.
Right, but it sounds like you could probably capture a couple of key points pretty easily, because you've already fielded these questions at a different meeting.
Yeah, so Commissioner Templin, we'll look at what we can do to add a little bit more substance that will help the commission.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and at the same rate, we'll make sure it can't be a work pill for us, because we have a lot of other stuff going on, but we want it to be helpful for you guys too. So we'll see what we can do, and next meeting, if it doesn't quite meet what you guys are looking for, we can continue making some modifications.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for your help.
Question. The housing element sites, are there any fees for per vehicle for traffic there? Any impact fees?
Yeah, Vice Chair, there are traffic impact fees that are collected. And we are currently going through, or our finance department is going through the process of updating that fee schedule. And, we do collect fees today. Those fees will be increasing at some point once our finance department's able to finalize their report. But impact fees are collected, but, it is a stance of the city that aside from housing element side, so we can't mandate improvements unless there's a health and safety reason. And we do have certain housing element sites where I, as a city engineer, have determined that there are health and safety requirements that need to be included with those by right sites. So that's not something that I take lightly or the city takes lightly. But even a housing element site does have to pay those traffic impact or mitigation fees.
Are they significant enough to fund some improvements to the traffic pattern around there?
They, as of today, no. They are not. They're not at the level that they are warranted to be at, which is why our finance department is currently updating the schedule. So they have gone through a lengthy process over the last year and a half, looking into those and determining what the appropriate rates are for today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're done with that. Time for Commissioner Corner. Right? Does anyone have any comments between the commissions? This is a time when we can speak to each other without violating the Brown Act.
Yeah, just just to the
What?
city folks as well, right?
And to the
Yeah,
city folks
yeah.
as well.
I'm curious about fire department reports versus the police with bicycle crashes. So a good friend of mine, an ex-firefighter, witnessed a juvenile on an e-bike coming down Mountain Vista, crashing into a car right by the post office. I think it was August, might have been early September. But no police were called. We never see those things. Is there a way we could get the fire department to provide reports like that then, if they're the ones who do have maybe injury reports or something, you know what I'm saying? Because, traffic is great, and Sergeant Trappist has given us more information, especially the comparative, but to get bicycle injury reports.
Yeah, so fire usually gets called to all those because anytime someone calls in saying there was some kind of a collision, they're usually going to go, especially if there's injury. We don't always get called to those. Sometimes they come out as like a medical aid because nobody wants a report. They just need someone to get medical attention. So I would absolutely reach out to the fire department to get those calls for service that they're going to, so you have a better idea of how many that are being reported. Because like I said, we're not always getting those calls.
Yeah. Okay. How would we go about, Amanda, I'm not sure how we would go about requesting additional reporting information like that, in this case from the fire department?
Yeah, I can talk to our fire marshal and see what database they're using and what kind of reporting capacity that database has to provide more information to commission next time.
Yeah, just
can
curious
provide
if
you
it's
some.
significant. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just feel like we're segueing into the whole conversation we had about data collection integrity that we had on the 101 several months ago. It sounds like some of the, when people are injured on bikes, sometimes the police aren't informed, sometimes even the fire department's informed. They'll just be picked up by an ambulance or something like that. There were a couple of databases, I think, that Ron and some of the people that were looking at the 101 were looking at that reported all this. But as you can remember from the reports, they kind of had to merge data from a couple of different sources in order to get a a clear picture of what's going on.
Yeah, no, and I recall all that, and there was a specific agenda behind doing all that, though, of like
Well-
trying to get as much information, which is fine. We always want as much information, but different data sources provided different types of data. I'm just trying to see if there's just one set fire department gets, I get it, we're not going to capture everything. But if it is a case where the department gets called to bike crashes where there is no citation or anything, it couldn't hurt, right?
Well, I think Ron and those folks were mostly using a state mandated database for that. And then I think what you're probably alluding to is they at one point they were talking about whether it made sense to also connect in like postings. One of the bicycle enthusiasts there was collecting his own sort of database there. But most of the data they had there was really from a state database. So. But even with that, I think what they noticed was that there were some cases where ambulances were called and it wasn't in the state database. So it's sort of a complex thing to get the total picture.
Yeah, it would be that way. That's why just the fire department database, Encinitas Fire Department, would be a simple, quick look.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Well, it'll give you more, but it won't give you the whole picture.
Yeah, that's fine. We don't have any picture of it right now, though,
Yeah.
on a monthly basis.
Any other comments from commissioners on any topic?
Sorry, I'm too talkative today. Just one dawned on me. I think it was our first speaker. The signs that we're putting up on the roadways now, the electronic signs, message signs, those are great. Who does put the messages up on them?
So the engineering department is in charge of the messages, and our goal is every 2 to 3 weeks to update messages in each location, so that way we do ensure that those messages are fresh. They get stale, people stop looking at them, so we are due here pretty soon to have some updated messages, and we'll keep on recirculating those and ensure that we've got good traffic safety thoughts on those signs for everyone.
Thanks.
Okay, are we all done? Can we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, voice vote?
Yeah.
What? Okay, we're adjourned then.
Yeah, there you go. See you guys next time.
Good job. Filling in. A lot of rules to have to abide by and pay attention to, and make sure you're calling all the right things at the right time. I couldn't have done it. Very efficient. You definitely don't want done. No.
Hi.